Hello, I'm Nisoni and I've played Koa for several years. I have over 3,500 hours in this game and I almost exclusively queue Battlegrounds as my main form of content. I leveled in 10 to 60 in Koa from the release, about 90% in Battlegrounds. I released a tier list for 10 to 40 Battlegrounds leveling, placement, and watched as other content creators decided to do a 60 tier list, but something I noticed was that their lists often lacked information for players that was concise and gave a clear picture of what the class or spec really does and how it fits into Koa's ecosystem. This is my honest attempt at an informed and experience-based list and flowchart that depicts the overall performance of each spec in each of the common PvP scenarios and their respective roles, what those roles are, how they interact with each other. I plan on updating this image as well as making another video on specifically the 1v1 and 2v2 arena placements. This video is going to be focused on each spec's placement and a quick overview of how I view their performance and kit in Battlegrounds.
In order to get a better understanding of Koa PvP, I think we look at it like a rock, paper, scissors dynamic, and it gives us a much more complete view of the picture. We're going to start off in the rock section. First off in S tier, I have Gladiator, Guardian. I think they're an excellent front line. They bring good damage, CC, and utility. They have a good charge, and I love having them on my front line. They fill the role well as a brawler. Primalist Wildwalker is the second in S tier. They fulfill the role of brawler and sustain. I think they excel in fights where they can reposition and off heal. I do have animation in A tier for the rock category. They excel at damage mitigation and absorption. Warcock's in A tier because they are the perfect team fight initiator with 2 grips, and then they put you in the BDSM collar and then they walk you around the team and everyone gets their turn with you. Next up in A tier, I have Mechanics Tinker, a sustain ranged, great frontline kiter, walking around the outskirts of the front. Great disruption. Valkyrie Sun Cleric does pretty decent at brawling and sustaining, as long as it can stay in melee range. I do find that their movement is on a pretty long cooldown. Same thing with Crusader. They're a mosh pit spec. They get horsey time for a little bit, so they're not always bound to the wheelchair. It's like a 3-minute cooldown. Slaying Felsorn also wants to be in the middle of the mosh pit, dart around the side skirts of the main fight and take out Clothies, or go dive right into the death ball and blender. First off in C tier, we have Warden. It's an elusive and disruptive hit and run fighter, but it's much more well suited to small team fight formats like 1v1 and 2v2 and 3v3. It can still find success in Battlegrounds by playing around objectives, in my opinion. Inquisition is a PvE spec that sometimes get to have fun. With their tonics and cures, they do have a little bit of survivability in a fight, but being a melee spec, probably not going to have a great time. Zealot, similar to Crusader, in which they are wheelchair bound, except they don't get access to horsey time. If you get to connect with someone, you're going to blender them, but have fun RP walk simulatoring. Down here in D, we have Accursed, straight to the trash. This used to be scary, but they have neutered the dog. And Harvest is killing yourself, but actually in the game, that's what you do. Alright, by this point in the video, you're probably wondering what's going on down here with tanks. Why aren't they up the top at the rock frontline brawler sustain pyramid? Well, if you're playing a tank in Battlegrounds, you're probably a handless troglodyte. You probably go home to your bitch wife from your shitty job with your beer belly and your dumb kids in the background, and you boot this shit up and you're like, oh boy, can't wait to do no damage and waste everyone's time. The couple tanks that are decent are Tyrant, obviously, with 8 to 10,000 health shielding and incredible movement. Vanguard with unmatched physical mitigation. The rest of these are nichely broken. Domination doesn't really have anything going for it right now other than it's tanky. It doesn't do damage. Oathkeeper is only very nichely broken, sometimes occasionally. Usually a wheelchair spec and useless. High health and deflection and a spammable cleanse makes them a decent flag carrier. However, 80% of their power budget is that spammable cleanse. Everything else that we've got in the tank section is garbage dumpster tier and not worth anyone's time. The next pyramid we have in here is the Scissors, Assassins, Combo Casters, and Playmakers. First off in S tier, I have Godblade Cultist. For a Playmaker, this is absolutely something you want on our team. Grip people instantly, bop them for Hammer of Twilight, rift them, and heal absorb them for around 5,000 health. Excellent teamfight initiator. Infernal's Felsworn, I mean, it's what all the handsless Timmies play. It's the Timmy spec. It has become overpowered through years of bitching and whining. With ridiculous movement and self-shielding, they have crazy CC, they have incredible burst, they drop Infernals on top of you. Dude, I think Shadow Hunting is so strong. 30-yard Earthbind Totem. They also get stealth and invisibility. Borders on Assassin. Reminds me of Shaco. Next up in A tier, we've got Riftblade. For an Assassin, I think they perform their role quite well. All they're meant to do is go in the backline and kill healers, kill squishy defenders around flags. With 2 vanishes, I think they can dart in, kill, and get out. Brutality being in B is expected, being a melee spec. Stalking being in B tier for an Assassin, but S tier for RP PvP. The RP of dropping 16 Biterling eggs and sitting and waiting on a flag until someone comes unwittingly. Unmatched. So sick. Your whole role is to set up a lair. When they roam, they're not doing quite as well as when they're setting up on objectives. They're an ambush spec. Sentinel, in my opinion, is the better archery ranger. It provides healing and utility to the group. Next up in B tier, we have Engravement Runemaster. I think they're a combat rogue analog and more well suited to smaller teamfight formats. However, they do bring decent utility to the group with sigils. Finally, in B tier, we have Boltslinger. I think they're decent when under no pressure, with RNG-based damage proc being somewhat annoying to set up. Brigand also in C tier. They're like a traditional assassination rogue, except they don't have a finisher. This class used to have a great finisher. They used to be excellent in Battlegrounds, being an assassin. Soul Reaper is another spec that I think is much more well suited to 1v1 formats, 2v2 formats. Their role is the same as Riftblade, however, without a kick and much lower burst damage, they don't perform the role of assassin quite as well. Down in D, we have Houndmaster, straight to the trash. I think the only time they're having fun is when they're sitting on a single objective, fending against a melee that they can kite to oblivion. Next pyramid we have in our dynamic is the Paper. These are our hardcasters and our glass cannons. First off in S tier, I have Vodoo, some of the highest damage I've seen in Battlegrounds, incredible team value, team-wide grounding totem, 30-yard earthbind totem. Maelstrom next to it in S tier because of its static generation. It makes use of the Stormbringer instant cast heal, the spammable static heal, with all of its knockbacks in the class tree as well. A vortex pull and decent damage. It's also not a one-button reliant spec. Demolition Tinker, this is the terrorist spec. It has everything and it also bombs everything. They send out their 9/11 planes, they blow everything up, they bounce around, they stun you. Crazy as a AoE damage dealer in teamfights. Headhunter, they've got great damage and mobility but are a little squishy. Next up in A tier, I have Incineration Pyromancer. It's a dot spec. It has a very strong combust burst window. Great AoE CC, little squishy but high output in teamfights. Next to it is Stormbringer, lightning spec. It is the one-button one-shot. It's great at doing glass cannon things, but not so great when there are melee on it. Next off, we got Piety Sun Cleric. It's got high direct AoE damage, able to off-heal, decent caster, movement, and defensives. High single target burst, but very cooldown reliant. Strongest in teamfights, sitting at max range, spamming AoE nukes, or it can get a surprise one-shot combo off on a healer in Sway of Battle. Has uncapped AoE, stun, and incap. And Artificer to finish off A tier. I think they're a great turret spec with 8 CC buttons that are slows and roots. They're able to turret, they can chunk. Starting off B tier, I have Sanguine. They're in a similar role as Lightning Stormbringer with Valinar's Vengeance, but they take much longer to charge up and they have worse defensives. I have seen 2.5k Valinar's Vengeances dropped on people's heads. Just a long-range nuker. Next in B, I have Infinite Chronomancer. It's the Resident Gamble spec. It's a dot spec that has a Gamble Chaos Bolt. However, their entire kit is dispellable by magic. Next in B is Draconic Pyromancer. I think they're much more well-suited to smaller teamfights and smaller format PvP. They can find success playing small battles in like Arathi, Warsong, being disruptive with their breath and AoE CC. Next in B, I have Archery Ranger. It has consistent but small damage. Spiky damage when they get to use their 2 shots that do around 1.5k, 2k. Has some maneuverability and a vanish. A ranged 5-second stun. I also have Glyphic in the B tier. I think they're also a gamble spec. Decent single target damage, not great AoE. Finishing off B, I have Rot Venomancer, an anti-melee AoE poison dot caster. It's squishy but has great kiting ability. Does well to maintain frontline zone control while staying in the back and playing defensively. Starting off C tier, I have Corruption Cultist. While borrowing from a strong class kit, I think that they only do well when left alone and are much more suited to 1v1s, 2v2s, maybe even 3v3, small team formats. Their CC is strong, but they do need casting room. Next in C tier is Rime Necromancer. It's got an RNG-based root. It's proc reliant to be impactful, no instant cast damage, and lacks proper spenders. I really wish Rime was sick. I really wish it was cool and good in Battlegrounds. I like the theme, but they're not performing very well. Geomancy can be played better than its tier, but its kit is somewhat neutered. It's a channel-based generator and low movement. Their finisher is like 2.5k if you can get it off. It does take a while. Death Necromancer in D, very sad. Fix please. Doobie, Blizzard, someone. Not sure why we decided to take away all the cool things from Death. For our final group, we have healers and supports. Alright, starting off S tier with the healers, we have Blessing Sun Cleric. Potentially a fundamentally flawed design, able to heal the team and self without mana by simply just being hit. Great mobility, self-healing tools, able to tank multiple DPS for a small while if using vows correctly. I think they're S tier in both Arena and Battlegrounds. Next is Invention Tinker. They have everything. They're awesome as healers. They provide mana, they provide shielding. They're incredible in Battlegrounds. They have the Tinker class kit. They deserve the S tier. Next up in A tier, we have Moon Priest, able to provide mana and invisibility to allies, has atonement style healing, and thrives by just maintaining uptime in fights. I like having them on my team simply for that mana battery. Next up is Witch Doctor, a obvious great A tier candidate since they get the Witch Doctor class tree, Shadow Effigy, and a team-wide anti-magic shell totem. Great output, slightly less mobile than our S tier healers. Passive AoE healing. First off, in B tier, I have Time Chronomancer. I think they have pretty good AoE output, decent single target output, but outside of their defensives, they're pretty squishy and pretty immobile. Next up in B, I've got Flame-Weaving Pyromancer. I love having them on my team for the power infusion. Great AoE output and great AoE shielding mechanic. Incredibly squishy. Finally, in B tier, I have Vizier Venomancer. I think they're one of the worst defensively kitted classes, and being a hot healer in the burst meta isn't always going to be favorable. In large team fights, they excel just maintaining people, and so they can get pretty high on the board. Finally, in C tier, I have Heretic Cultist. I think it's a target dummy spec, and if you're playing this in Battlegrounds, you might be brain damaged. For our final group, we have supports. First off, in A tier, I have Grovekeeper Primalist. That's support only by name. It's an incredible healer still. It's like they just renamed Life and kept it very strong from the alpha. Turns melee heavy comps into death balls. Great at AoE healing. Rage-based healer. Can intercept allies. Starting off B tier, I have Inspiration Guardian. I think they have moderate uptime. They're able to brawl DPS and AoE heal. I really like the banners and standards utility that they bring to the team fight. Fleshweaver, middle of B tier. They're a chain target healer in DPS, and they cycle dealing damage to heal themselves, to heal spending health to heal allies. I think they're a little undertuned. Their health costs don't line up with the healing that they do. I like their effects. I think they're a cool themed class. I just wish they were performing a little better. For Farstrider in B tier, I think that they make bird, shoot arrow, bird do work, make flower, teammate happy, but I mean, it's not incredibly impactful in Battlegrounds. They're a pet-based support, and I'm not a huge fan of those. Finishing off C tier, we have Ancestry Barbarian. I think their utility kit is lacking, as well as being a pet-based support, being a melee class. I feel like they're trying to be a Deathball creator, but other classes do it better. Winspec being another pet-based support spec, I think falls short. Their utility is geared towards making melee stronger in team fights. However, it's mostly just movement and position based and doesn't bring any damage to the fight. This has been the general performance / Battlegrounds team fight section of this tier list. I'll be updating the 1v1 and 2v2 areas and putting out a separate video for that. In the meanwhile, I'll keep this image updated and some links in the Discord will go to it. If you thought this video was informative, check me out on Twitch. I stream almost every day at Suncleric Nisoni.